Pack Rat by Anonymous. So I actually found Creepypasta through DeviantArt. I was looking around old Pokémon stuff in there and reminiscing of hours spent in front of a Game Boy, for I was that dorky kid who had ruby, sapphire, gold, silver, crystal, blue, red, and yellow. Or at least I did. I had all of those games because I lost one at some point every time. I lost my yellow version, my red version, my ruby version, and for a while, my gold version. Now that I am 18 and no longer 6, I have big boy chores to do, which include cleaning out the ducts in my house. Disgustingly enough, amongst the dust and other dust-like particles were a family of dead mice, strangely enough, lying on my gold version. So, with much effort and a lot of Purell afterwards, I grabbed the cartridge from amongst the corpses and laid it down. Unlike those crazy other stories I read on here, I went back to cleaning like a normal story would. It was only when I finished my chores did I bother to scrub off my game and wonder about what had happened. Now, I didn't have a Game Boy at the time. Ironically enough, I sold them all off and just kept my old games around as keepsakes, just to look at and remember. But upon finding the gold version, I kinda wanted to start it up again. So, cutting the story short a bit, I got myself a Game Boy Advanced SP and a charging cable and set myself down upon my bed to get to work. This also may sound strange to you other writers, but I didn't head for the Forsaken Gold version either. I started out with my blue version, which had 148 Pokémon. I was missing the Bulbasaur evolution, and I did have Mew by trading away my level 97 Charizard when I was younger. Everything looked in order, and as sweet nostalgia set into my joints, I started up my Crystal version, which I remembered to be my favorite, first. Everything was fine there. No glitches, just my sprite standing outside the bug-catching contest as normal. So, after inspecting my Pokémon, I turned it off and turned on the gold version. Here's where all the fans who have spent all the time reading this, oddly specifically and realistic story should start to get onto their feet. It didn't start up right. In fact, the Game Boy words that started up when you turned the game on kept shifting from blue to red to green, and the yellow and then back into order, and did not let me proceed. To those trying to guess why at home, it was just some dust. I blew it out and then everything came to order. After the initial loading screen and continuing as normal, I checked out my team. A level 35 Scyther, a level 40 Dragonair, a level 48 Pidgeotto, a level 58 Meganium, a level 70 Ampharos, no relation to the Drained story, and a level 87 Suicune. I was rather impressed with 8-year-old me. I cleaned up well, and at least with the legendaries it seemed. I didn't quite remember where I was, and I preferred walking around to remember where I was instead of flying about. All I knew was that I was in some grassy area. I walked a couple of steps down and saw a trainer with their back facing the screen. I tried to talk to them, and there was no response. I figured the game was old, so I walked back up to where I was. Right about where I got to where my starting point was, the game froze for a second. Just a hair. Enough to notice, but not enough to consider turning it off, and I went into a battle. It was a level 2 Rattata. I prefer never to run from battle, so out came my Scyther and I pressed A super fast to just try and get it over with. Somehow, the Rattata went first. I really had no care, and its tackle only slightly damaged my Pokémon before Cut ended it. As I went back to the overworld screen, I went to walk back down towards the trainer, when before I took a step, another Rattata attacked, this one at level 5. The same thing happened, only my Scyther took slightly more damage, but all in all, he was less than 1/8 down from normal. Back to main screen, I took one step south and another Rattata, level 7, attacked, doing significantly more to my Scyther with a critical hit quick attack. Somehow, my Scyther was down to about half health, but managed to vanquish the lower level annoyance. One more step south, level 10 Rattata appears. This starts to get annoying because I don't even know where I am at this point, so I set my Scyther to use Wing Attack, which would have killed the Rattata by a pleasingly high margin if the rat hadn't used Sand Attack. I missed, and the Rattata used Quick Attack again and again and again. After a good 3-minute fight, the victor was pronounced. The wild Pokémon trumped my Scyther. So now I got angry. I don't like leaving battles, because to me, that is admitting defeat. So I threw in my Dragonair, who was in no way going to be beaten by a stupid rat. One twister sent that little annoyance to oblivion, and I'm back at the main screen. It is then that I realize how worked up I got over that dumb Rattata, so I pause, take a deep breath, and then try to walk another step south. Rattata attacks. This one, level 17. Now, had I been thinking, I would have realized that a span of 16 levels within 3 squares shouldn't be possible, but I was so furious at that Rattata that I wasn't thinking anymore than taking my rage out on it. Unfortunately, the area I was in seems to like Rattata's speed much better than mine, so Rattata went first and sanded my Dragonair. If I ever get my hands on whoever invented Sand Attack, they are dead, because in no real situation would a Rattata ever be able to defeat a Dragonair, except today. So I send out my Pidgeot to end the battle with a Wing Attack. So guess what happens next? One step south, one more Rattata, only this one seemed a little bigger, boasting a level 22. My Pidgeot went out and started the battle off, finally, with a fly. Rattata's Sand Attack missed and down came the bird with a critical hit. Except here's where it gets interesting. Despite the lack of health bar, Rattata didn't faint. It got me with a second Sand Attack and depleted half of my health before I finally got in a Wing Attack to kill it. Now this can easily be explained. It could have had 1 health or something, but it really looked like there wasn't any left. So I went back to the menu, and without taking a step, a level 26 Rattata ambushed me. I'll keep this one short by saying it was a normal battle, with me being the victor with minimal damage, but as soon as I exited, another one popped up before I could take a step, also level 26 and more resilient than the one before, actually destroying my Pidgeot without a Sand Attack. So with fire in my heart, out came Meganium. Mega Drain ended that battle. I got to the screen, and it finally seemed like the Rattata was gone, meaning I got to walk south to the trainer, who this time responded, except the glitched game and the letters were all in some cryptic language. I ignored it and went south, feeling like I recognized the place, finally, as being near the ruins of Elf. It wasn't. I continued on, with every step being bombarded by more Rattata, slowly killing away my party, until I was left with just my Suicune. I had 1 super potion and couldn't fly away. I was trapped, and then it happened. I got attacked by a level 38 Rattata with a mean Hyper Fang. I took him down after taking a good 50 health off me, and it wouldn't bring me back to the main screen. It was like an invisible trainer deployed it. A random Pokeball was thrown from nowhere, and another level 38 Rattata attacked, taking 50 more health. Then a third Rattata, 50 more health. My Suicune was down to about 130 or so when it happened. The Raticate appeared. A shiny level 50 Raticate. Its moving sprite and cry were double the length of normal, and in 1 Hyper Fang I was down to the red zone. I had 1 shot. Blizzard. The Raticate unaffected. I mean literally took no damage. Somehow its cry went off again, and it attacked with a Quick Attack, bringing my Suicune down to 2 health. I knew I was finished. I couldn't run. I didn't want to waste my super potion. I waited for the Raticate to attack, and it did. Down went my Suicune, but instead of whiting out, I was brought back to the main screen, with my Suicune at 1 health. Every step I took was another Rattata, and I couldn't do anything, and whenever I would faint, I was back in the rat hole. Suddenly it was night, and there were all Raticates at level 40, and then the shiny Raticate appeared again. I fought hard, actually using the super potion, and threw a valiant and downright lucky shot. A duo, or Hyper Beam and Surf finally brought the Raticate down. Once it died, my game restarted, and I was in New Barktown with only my Suicune, asleep and at 1 health. All of the other Pokémon were in my PC. I saved the game, and it remains on my shelf. I will never bring it back down. Never again will I look at a Rattata or a mouse the same again. That was Packrat. Final thoughts? Just a pile of shitty self-referential bullshit. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Lines like, "but unlike in other stories," or the like are some of the stupidest statements you can write in a creepypasta. All you're doing is acting as if your story is so much better and like others are just silly, when you're doing the same thing they did. Just don't fucking bring it up. In Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, there was never a line saying, "No, it wasn't a vampire, that would just be stupid." The only other thing I have to say is that they clearly didn't let this story be peer edited. It's riddled full of awkward sentences, run-on sentences, and typos. I'd go into the positives of this story, but there are no positives that can outweigh any of the many glaring flaws. I don't know why this story was requested, but I'd like it if people stuck to requesting good stories. That's it for this week's Creepypasta. Tune in again, same time next week when we tackle yet another Creepypasta. If you want to write your own story, help peer edit a story, or even just read the stories early, check out the description where you'll find a link to the Creepypasta section of my forum. You'll also find a link to the playlist of every Creepypasta reading I've done. Remember that if you want your story to be read on the show, you must stay active on your post on the forum, as well as read the forum rules. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, sweet dreams.